All right, buckle up because we're diving headfirst into your notes on stocks and crypto.
You're really going deep, huh? Trying to decode Wall Street. I like it.
Hey, someone's got to do it right. And I got to say, these notes are extensive.
Well, it's smart to want to understand this stuff. It's important. And it's
Yeah.
not just about, like, memorizing definitions.
No, definitely not. It's about getting that real aha moment, that feeling like you could actually hold your own in a conversation with, like a Wall Street shark.
Exactly. So to get us started, let's clear up one thing. People often mix up the difference between stocks and bonds.
Oh, yeah, good call. They're kind of lumped together sometimes, but they're totally different beasts, aren't they?
Exactly. Imagine lending money to a friend that's essentially a bond. You're giving money to a company or the government, expecting to get it back with a little extra on top. That's the interest.
Makes sense.
But stocks, well, it's more like buying a piece of your friend's awesome up-and-coming bakery.
Okay, I'm liking where this is going.
If the bakery booms, you get a taste of that success. Your little piece is worth more. But if it goes, well, stale.
You're holding a bunch of day-old bread wondering where it all went wrong.
You got it. Stocks mean you own a tiny sliver of that company. All the potential upside, all the risk. No guarantees like bonds.
So higher stakes, potentially bigger rewards. No wonder people get hooked. But you mentioned growth. How do you even predict if a company is going to take off like that? Is there, like, a secret formula?
If only we're that simple. But no crystal ball, unfortunately. There are models, though, to help make sense of it all. One simplified one is the Gordon Growth Model we call the GGM, for short. It basically links a stock's value to the future dividends a company might pay.
Dividends, right? Those payments companies make to stockholders. It's like sharing the profits, right?
You got it. So it's about predicting how much money your friend's bakery will rake in down the line and using that to guess what your slice is worth right now.
So future earnings, future potential. But isn't that a total guessing game, especially with newer companies? Like, your friend's bakery just opened last month? Who knows?
You bring up a good point. The GGM has its limits, especially with young companies where growth can be all over the place. But the main takeaway is this. How the market sees a company's future, its potential for profit, that plays a huge role in how much its stock is worth.
That makes sense. But okay, let's be real. There are thousands of companies out there, thousands of stocks. It's overwhelming. How do you even choose?
That's where understanding the different types of stocks comes in handy. It's like you wouldn't use the same strategy to pick a racehorse as you would a workhorse, right?
I mean, you've got a point there.
Different tools for different jobs. Each stock has its own, well, personality. And getting that can give you an edge. Let's start with large cap versus small cap stocks. Large cap, those are the big players, the Apples and Microsofts of the world.
The established giants, right?
It's exactly.
Yeah.
They've been around, weathered some storms, so they're generally considered less risky. Then there are small cap stocks, the newer, smaller companies.
Yeah.
Huge growth potential, but also more likely to be tossed around by, market ups and downs.
So large cap is like that sturdy oak tree. It's seen a lot, probably going to keep standing. Small cap is more like a sapling could shoot up, could wither.
Perfect analogy. Now, another key difference is growth stocks versus income stocks. Remember the GGM and those dividends?
Yeah, I'm following.
So growth stocks, they're all about expansion. They take those profits and pump them right back into the business, aiming for, rapid growth. Think Amazon, Tesla, always pushing forward. Income stocks, on the other hand, those are the steady earners. They're less about breakneck growth, more about giving investors a consistent stream of income through, you guessed it, dividends.
Okay, so if I'm looking for those regular payouts, income stocks are the way to go. But if I'm okay with a little more risk, a little more excitement, maybe growth stocks are more my speed.
Exactly. And don't forget about diversifying. We don't want all our eggs in one basket, right? Look beyond just your home country, too. International stocks can help balance things out. If one market takes a hit, others might be doing great.
Smart move. So we've got different company sizes, growth strategies, even venturing into the global market. It's a lot like building a superhero team, actually. You need different strengths, different skills to make it work.
I like that. But speaking of different, we've got to talk about a whole other world. One that even seasoned investors find pretty wild. Cryptocurrency.
And that's where we're headed next. Get ready to enter the world of digital currencies and decentralized systems. All right, so we've explored stocks, owning those little pieces of companies, hoping they grow and thrive. But now we're stepping into a whole new dimension, cryptocurrency. It's like leaving behind the familiar streets of Wall Street and teleporting straight into, I don't know, some kind of futuristic marketplace.
You're not far off. Cryptocurrencies operate on completely different principles than traditional finance. Instead of physical certificates or bank records, it all boils down to this thing called blockchain.
Blockchain, it's like the buzzword these days. Everyone's throwing it around. But to be honest, I'm not sure I totally get it.
Right, it can seem pretty complex at first. Imagine a digital ledger, a record of all transactions, but instead of being kept in one place, like a bank, it's duplicated across a vast network of computers. So every time a Bitcoin, for instance, is bought or sold, that transaction is validated and recorded on every single copy of this ledger.
So it's like a giant synchronized spreadsheet, but for tracking Bitcoin?
Essentially, yes. And this distributed nature makes it incredibly secure. To tamper with one record, you'd have to tamper with every single copy simultaneously, which is virtually impossible. This decentralized structure is what makes crypto so revolutionary. It's not controlled by any single entity.
So no central banks, no governments calling the shots. It's like the Wild West, but instead of cowboys and saloons, it's coders and digital gold rushes.
That's a pretty good analogy. It's a volatile space full of both risk and opportunity. And speaking of volatile, let's talk about Bitcoin, the OG cryptocurrency that kicked off this whole phenomenon.
Ah, Bitcoin. It's like the rock star of crypto, making headlines with those wild price swings. But even Warren Buffett, the investment guru, he called it rat poison squared. If he's skeptical, shouldn't we be a little wary?
Buffett's a brilliant investor, no doubt, but even the best get things wrong sometimes. Bitcoin represents a fundamental shift in how we think about currency. It's decentralized, finite, meaning there's a limited supply, and operates independently of traditional financial systems. It's uncharted territory, and that makes some people nervous while others see it as, well, the future.
So it's like a rebellion against the financial establishment. I can see how that would get people fired up.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the greater fool theory. The idea that you can profit from something as long as someone else is willing to pay more for it later, that plays a role in Bitcoin's volatility too. It's not all about the tech. There's speculation, hype, fear of missing out. All these factors influence its price.
So there's the tech, the speculation, and the whole what if this is the future of money thing. But with thousands of other cryptocurrencies popping up, is Bitcoin still the one to watch, or are we missing out on the next big thing?
Bitcoin is still the biggest player, by far. I mean, its market capitalization, the total value of all Bitcoin in circulation, dwarfs most companies on the planet.
Wait, hold up. Market capitalization, just to be clear, we're talking about the total value of all the Bitcoin out there, right? Just making sure I'm following along.
You got it. It's like measuring the entire pie, not just one slice. And Bitcoin's pie is enormous. But you're right, there are tons of other cryptocurrencies out there, some with serious potential. Ethereum, for example.
Ethereum. Okay, yeah, I've heard of that one. How does it compare to the mighty Bitcoin? Give me the lowdown.
So Bitcoin, at its core, was designed to be a digital currency, a replacement for traditional money. Ethereum, on the other hand, is more like a platform. It allows developers to build applications on its blockchain, opening up a whole world of possibilities beyond just financial transactions.
So if Bitcoin is like digital gold, then Ethereum is more like digital real estate. You're building on it, creating new things.
You're catching on quick. One of the most interesting applications on Ethereum is something called smart contracts. These are self-executing contracts, meaning the terms of the agreement are written into the code itself, and they automatically enforce those terms when certain conditions are met.
Whoa, so instead of lawyers and paperwork, it's all automated on the blockchain. That's pretty wild. Efficient, but wild.
It has the potential to streamline so many industries. And then, of course, you have examples like Dogecoin, which show just how unpredictable the crypto market can be.
Dogecoin. The one that started as a joke, right? Didn't Elon Musk tweet about it? And suddenly, boom, it was worth billions.
Exactly. It just shows you, in the world of crypto, anything is possible. What starts as an internet meme can explode in value seemingly overnight. It's a wild ride, to say the least. And speaking of wild rides, we have to talk about risk and return in the cryptosphere. Because whether you're buying stocks or betting on Bitcoin, understanding that delicate dance between profit and loss is crucial.
It really is a wild ride. 1 minute you're on top of the world, the next you're, well, holding on for dear life. So how do we even start to measure risk in this crazy world of investing? Stocks, crypto, it all seems a bit like gambling sometimes.
You've hit a nerve there. Understanding risk is absolutely essential. And one of the key concepts is volatility. Now, people usually think of volatility as just, big price swings. Up and down, roller coaster stuff.
Right, like that feeling in your stomach when the market takes a dive.
Exactly. But there's more to it than just how much the price jumps around. Ideally, we could predict this using something called a normal distribution. You might remember that bell curve from statistics class.
Okay, yeah, it's coming back to me.
Basically, it says that most data points cluster around the average. The further away you get, the less likely those extremes become.
So, like, in a perfectly normal market, those huge wins, those massive crashes, they'd be super rare, right? Most stocks would just kind of hang out in the middle of the pack.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Real-life markets, especially with stocks and crypto, well, they don't always follow the rules. Real-world returns often have these fat tails.
Fat tails, that sounds kind of ominous.
It just means that those extreme events, the really good and the really bad, they happen more often than that normal distribution would predict. Imagine flipping a coin, right?
Yeah.
You expect heads or tails, roughly 50-50. But sometimes you get on these streaks lucky or unlucky that just seem to defy the odds.
Oh, I know those streaks.
Those streaks, those outliers, those are the fat tails.
So even though statistically those huge gains and losses should be rare, in the real market, they happen more often than we think. It's like the odds are playing tricks on us.
In a way, yes. And that's why just looking at potential return isn't enough. We need to factor in the risk, and that's where the Sharpe ratio comes in.
Sharpe ratio, is that like a report card for investments?
That's a good way to think about it. The Sharpe ratio helps us compare investments not just on how much we could make, but also on the risk we're taking to get there. It's all about risk-adjusted returns. A higher Sharpe ratio usually means you're getting more bang for your buck.
So, like if I'm looking at two stocks, one could make me a fortune but also lose me everything. The other is slower, steadier. The Sharpe ratio helps me see which one is smarter, given how much risk I'm okay with.
Exactly. It helps you make a more informed decision. It's not just about how much you could gain, it's about how much risk you're willing to stomach to get there. And that's a very personal thing.
Wow, this has been eye-opening, to say the least. We've covered so much ground, from the basics of stocks and bonds to the craziness of crypto to like actual statistics.
We've barely scratched the surface, really. The world of finance is constantly changing. New tech, new strategies, new risks popping up all the time. The key is to stay curious, to keep learning.
That's what we're all about here, right? Learning, exploring, trying to make sense of it all. So as we wrap up this deep dive, any final thoughts for our listeners? Something to keep them thinking.
Definitely. Remember how we talked about valuing stocks, using things like the Gordon growth model with its focus on future dividends?
Yeah, it makes sense for a company, but
But cryptocurrencies, they don't have those traditional markers. So here's something to chew on. Could we adapt those valuation techniques for the crypto world?
interesting. Could we look at a cryptocurrency's network activity, the number of people using it, the applications being built on it, like we analyze a company's earnings and growth?
It's a fascinating question, and one that investors are wrestling with right now. Crypto challenges are traditional ways of thinking about value. It's not about owning a piece of a company with factories or profits. It's about, well,
No.
that's part of the mystery, isn't it?
I guess some things are meant to be explored, not solved. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into stocks and crypto. Thanks for joining us on this journey. And remember, the learning never truly ends. Keep those brains engaged, and who knows what you'll discover. Until next time.